kind of went from, so we decided to do kind of like a film threat-esque thing where we're just going to be looking at some movies and some TV shows and give our thoughts on them.
Yep, can be, and doing a mix of new and old stuff.
Yes. Yeah. And we'll start off here with Blue Beetle.
Yep. So last weekend, my dad just unexpectedly said, "Hey, want to go see Blue Beetle?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" Uh, this one, people who have been paying attention for a bit might have noticed me kind of waffling on whether I wanted to see this or not, because I don't have like a great affection for Jaime Reyes, mostly because I'm more of a Marvel guy than a DC,
Mhm.
so I haven't read a lot of
Yeah.
his comics. He was an amusing character in The Brave and the Bold, mostly because he was a teenager and his teacher was the Huntress, who he does definitely hot for teacher for. Or if she wasn't his teacher, then like she was a teacher at his college or whatever.
uh, all right.
People who have watched Young Justice will also know the character from there.
Yep.
So this was kind of an interesting. It was an interesting experience because on the one hand they made some pretty major mistakes in my opinion, but on the other hand
Mm,
it's like well-meaning. It's a well-meaning movie that kind of deserves to be launched at a different time
yeah.
because just a kind of quick side tangent before I get into my thoughts on the movie itself. I remember reading ages ago somebody saying that what Disney doesn't want DC to flop and fail because uh, it
Yeah.
because it's going to undercut the whole idea of the superhero movie.
Mm,
And there's enough people out there who don't know which is which. Even if you have the big title crawl at the beginning and like your ads, you say, "Oh, it's a DC movie."
yeah.
Well, why isn't Spider-Man helping?
Yeah. Yes, yeah, there are plenty of newbies out there who don't know the difference between the two franchises. Yeah.
Yep. So to get into the movie proper, to kind of just break it down because it doesn't necessarily need a super in-depth plot thing, and it is a new enough movie that you know I I I think I'll give my quick non-spoiler thought here, which is
Mhm.
it's good, it's worth watching. If you feel like you know a pity buy, it's probably worth a matinee at least.
All right.
Uh, if you still like superhero movies for some reason after Marvel spent the last few years trying to drive it out of you, then this is probably I ended up seeing this and The Flash. Additional
Mm,
sidebar: my dad is like the biggest DC fan, at least when it comes to their movies and TV shows.
Uh,
I
yeah.
think there's like been an absurd amount of DC material for a while now because we're
Yeah.
not just counting the movies. You've got multiple. They tried to have the DC TV streaming service. They had the CW stuff. Here you go.
Yeah.
Who's watching all that stuff? My dad, more or less. He actually watched the Gotham Knights and more or less enjoyed himself.
Oh, all right.
All right, so back onto this movie.
Yeah.
So the movie did some interesting things. Uh, it it was a question I had in my mind: are they going to acknowledge the previous Blue Beetles? And the answer is they acknowledged one.
Yeah.
Uh, so I'll kind of give the big picture, then get into kind of the character and actor stuff. So big picture. Previously, this city that was down in the Florida Keys, I forget the name of it, uh, was protected by the Blue Beetle, and it's kind of a
Okay.
company town in the sense that, or company city in the sense that you have this big Cord Industries, who's a military contractor.
Yeah.
Ted Cord, who was secretly Blue Beetle, disappeared a few years back and has not been seen since.
Okay.
This is not the order in which the events are presented in the movie, but I'm just kind of giving that background. Like that was an interesting choice because that's the sticking point with the Jaime Reyes character. Except for some people, it's like it doesn't matter that Jaime is a perfectly fine character. They want Ted Cord Blue Beetle, darn it, and to have him team up with Booster Gold, darn it,
Yeah.
because they liked Justice League International in the '80s.
Ah, yes.
So, so that's that was a good choice to acknowledge him. Uh, but Ted Cord disappeared, and his evil sister, played by Susan Sarandon, uh, takes over the company and kind of does the Ironmonger thing where they're he had come in and Tony Starked it up by making the company more peaceful. She comes back in and they're now working on the OMAC project, which longtime DC readers will recognize as One Man Army Corps, which was which depending on the version,
Mhm.
in this case it's a set of super battle armor.
And Ninja's here. Good to see you, man.
Yep.
And he says, "It's not my Blue Beetle," says some fanboys.
Yep. Um, so so that's kind of the backdrop. But where the movie really is about is it's about Jaime Reyes and his family.
Hmm,
So Jaime has just come back from Gotham University. He was like wearing a Gotham State hoodie when he shows up,
okay.
and he's picked up by his family: mother, father, uncle, dad's brother, who's his uncle, um, grandmother, sister.
Okay.
So a nice little extended family all living together. And he finds out, like he's gotten back with his pre-law degree, and he's
Uh,
found out in the course of an afternoon that his dad's repair shop has been shut down because they ran out of money. They're going to be evicted from the house in not too much more time. Like
uh,
why did and his dad had a heart attack while he was away.
oh, jeez.
Like why didn't you tell me about this? Oh, mijo, we didn't want to worry you.
Okay.
You were so focused on your school.
What? Jeez.
So so he decides, you know what? I got this degree. I'm in all this debt because of the degree, and it's kind of implied that putting him through school may have been what helped ruin their finances, on top of some gentrification stuff going on.
Mhm.
On top of that,
Yeah.
uh, being driven by Cord Industries' investments in real estate, among other things.
Ah.
So he ends up, I'm going to go get a great job. And he and his sister are scraping gum off the bottom of benches
Uh,
for Cord Industries.
mm,
So while he's there, he runs into Ted Cord's beautiful Brazilian daughter,
uh,
uh, and he ends up getting fired from his pool boy job along with his sister. But
mm,
she's, I feel bad about this. The reason he gets fired is because he intervenes in sort of a nonsensical way in the argument that between the Susan Sarandon and her niece. Like
oh.
it didn't quite make sense. Like he was trying to cover for his sister because his sister was like, "I'm going to go take an executive crap." So she was in like the private bathroom, and so he was like standing watch and trying to draw attention away from her.
Oh. Okay.
But the niece feels bad, so like, hey, come to Cord Industries tomorrow, and I'll see about getting you a job.
Mm, okay.
So things are looking up.
Yeah.
Uh, Now you find out that there is this artifact. Actually, no, you don't know what the artifact is yet. But there's like this blue beetle thing, and the niece steals it from the lab. A major plot hole that I will talk about in a moment.
Yeah.
But it's discovered that this thing is missing, and she gives it to Jaime for protection, so that because no one's going to suspect him of having it.
Yeah. Yeah.
He doesn't get the job, but so they're like, you got this. It's a burger box. Like you went down there for a job. Why did she give you a burger? They proceed to, like, even though she specifically said don't open the box. The family, of course, is a bunch of goofs when you get down to it, and they decide to open the box.
Uh,
And the box decides it likes him best and bonds with him Venom style.
uh, yeah.
And from here, one review I saw said, once you start watching the movie, you can kind of see where everything is going.
Mm.
And this is very true. So I'm going to kind of avoid getting, I think once the basic setup is done, it is a phase one Marvel movie. Let's talk the tropes.
Uh,
You have a a main character whose villain is an evil, seemingly stronger version of themselves,
uh, yeah,
made by an evil corporate scientist or whatever. So it's he's got an Ironmonger to his Iron Man, an Abomination to his Hulk, a Yellow Jacket to his Ant Man.
yes.
So again, I don't want to get into it too much. Um, does it woke mildly?
Yeah.
The dad is an illegal immigrant, and this is presented in a very positive light.
Mm.
Uh, Grandma was a communist revolutionary at some point in her backstory, which is used to justify the fact that she can use a chain gun that they use to try to rescue him, or Jaime at some point. The grandmother is a treat. Like she's a little fire keg.
Yeah.
Fire keg, is that a word? Yeah, she should be.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yes.
um, those are the two, and there's like little bits in here about uh, like when the guy said there were themes of colonialism. I guess I didn't see there was like little bits of it where like with one of the villains' backstories that were kind of relayed in flashback.
Uh,
Holy Ninja says, "Well, unfortunately, Jaime's only recurring nemesis is the Black Beetle." Yeah, in this one, it's what the main minion turned into Carapax, which is I don't have no idea what that's supposed to be. Um,
yeah.
well, via the One Man Army project, which is basically just waiting to unlock the Scarab to give them the data they needed.
Yeah.
Uh, so let's talk about the acting. There were some actors who stood out. There was this scientist who it has like very sympathetic eyes. Who, if you've ever watched What We Do in the Shadows, he's Guillermo. Who and he is exceptionally good at playing characters who are just put upon and you feel bad for. In
Yeah.
this case, Susan Sarandon's character, Susan Sarandon keeps calling him Jimenez, even though that isn't no Sanchez. She keeps calling him Sanchez, even though it's not actually his last name.
Yeah.
Uh, the lead star, Holo Mariduena. Uh, Actually, I don't know if there's an Enye. Might be Mariduena.
Mhm.
I'll just go to Holo because it's XOLO.
Mhm.
He's from Cobra Kai. He is very good and convincing in the role.
Okay.
In fact, the only character I would say is kind of a nothing is the sister, but that's
Mhm.
because she's kind of a bratty Gen Zer, which sounds worse now that I say that out loud, because she's not like making TikTok videos or anything
Yeah.
stereotypical and obnoxious like that. She's
Yeah.
just kind of she's the one who's willing to be blunt with him, but
Yeah.
like she's also kind of immature. Like the whole like her and her uncle, played by George Lopez, were the ones who started playing with the box and wanting to open it, even though he was told specifically not to.
Yeah.
So George Lopez, his character got some controversy in the ad campaign for the line "Batman is a fascist."
Yeah.
The character is a crazy conspiracy theorist who makes electronic devices that are designed to like interfere uh, with surveillance and things like that. He
Uh,
refuses when they pick up Jaime from the airport. He refuses to go in because, quote, that's how the cameras get you.
okay. Okay.
So, no, the movie does not hate Batman like some people were saying in advance. Like, okay, so side tangent. It's supposed to be the SJWs who ascribe the intent of all characters in a story with the author.
Yeah.
Please have nuance. Please don't judge things based on the trailer. If the movie had been, and the guy also the character also says, "Oh, Blue Beetle. I liked it. He was like Batman, just not quite as good. But I
Yeah.
liked him because Batman's a fascist."
Yeah.
So, it, so basically, not quite Alex Jones.
Yeah.
He's not Alex Jones. First off, he doesn't have a platform, but he
Yeah.
is very conspiratorial and crazy. Um, I would say that the actor who actually who just made me feel the most was Damien Alcazar, who plays Jaime's dad. In every scene he was in, he was very compelling, and I just felt like I wanted to watch more of him because he's a hardworking, salt of the earth kind of guy,
Yeah.
and I can separate my own political feelings about immigration reform from, well, regardless, he showed up, brought his whole family in, and has worked his behind off for decades on end to provide for his family. So I don't doubt that he is a good person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which that's the other thing that people were calling woke, but it's like, yeah, you're kind of right, but it's also like the attribution error. Is having a character like that mean that that's the only aspect of them?
Mhm. Yeah.
No.
No.
Yeah, I'm kind of legitimately unhappy that this movie isn't doing better than it is because I feel like this movie was damaged by Black Adam and Shazam 2 and Flash and an
Yeah.
awful release window and being delayed for so many years because of pandemic issues.
Yeah, and James Gunn rebooting the whole franchise, and yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's a fine movie. It's not changing anything. The whole dynamic between him and his suit is it's like Venom but not funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, the Venom symbiote in that Venom movie was always like in the back of his head talking to him and making jokes, where
Yeah.
this is like much more, the humor is much more that it's like cold and calculating.
Okay, that was something I was wondering about, like if the scarab was talking to him.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
Okay.
Which actually brings me to, so there were three weird things.
Okay.
One I thought was weird that wasn't actually weird after talking with a Vietnamese coworker.
Yeah.
Uh, so if you watch the movie,
Yeah.
Jaime never says a single complete sentence in Spanish.
Huh.
Yeah. Like they all have different degrees of English versus Spanish. The grandmother is 100% Spanish. The dad and everybody else switches between or switches to different degrees.
Yeah.
Uh, but it felt weird to me to have like his dad pouring his heart out to him in Spanish, and he'd reply in English.
Oh.
But talking with a coworker of mine who like he's second or third generation Vietnamese immigrant,
Mhm.
like that's actually very typical where like you lose a little bit more of the language every generation. It's like he can understand a decent amount, but he can't really speak it.
Oh. Yeah.
So and when I thought about it, it's like, well, okay, Jaime's not that far removed, but then again, he is the college boy, so
Right. Yeah.
he he might be the most Anglified of the bunch.
Mhm.
So that was weird thing number one that turned out not to be weird.
Uh,
There's one thing I was is kind of a blatant plot hole, and then there's another thing that could be like it's kind of like bad world building.
Okay.
So when Ted Kord's daughter steals the scarab,
Yeah.
she steals the pass of the fat scientist, sneaks into the lab, steals the scarab in his using his burger box, and then gets out.
Mhm.
In the next scene, he is entering the lab, and he notices the scarab is gone. What? Uh, Daniel, what is the problem with this from like a continuity perspective?
Wouldn't he notice that the burger was box was missing first?
Oh no, I might have. She steals his pass.
Oh, steal the pass. Right. Right. Oh.
Like,
Oh. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I forget. I might have said that wrong, but
Okay.
she steals his pass, uses it to enter the lab, there's not a scene where she returns the past to him, because there
Oh.
couldn't be a scene where she returns the past to him, because then he'd be like, "Why do you have my burger box?"
Oh, yeah.
So how did he get in the lab, and why wasn't he immediately on high alert to
Yeah.
that the pass card was missing?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This is one where I listened to a little bit of the Midnight's Edge roundtable talk about that, and some
Yeah.
people said like that was like the first plot hole that took me completely out of the movie, and um, it's just the movie is full of contrivances like that. Like that's the only one that went above the level of simple coincidence to my mind.
Okay.
So that was like the first weird thing. The second weird thing is how they completed the OMAC, because like the Blue Beetle is an alien space weapon, and
Hmm.
they have managed to turn the OMAC into something that more or less can copy its functions, just initially not as well.
Mm.
Um, but what they have to do is they have to get I believe it's the code from the Blue Beetle scarab.
Oh.
Now, the problem I have with that is it seems to me that that reverse engineering alien technology is less of a hardware issue or less of a software issue and more of a hardware issue.
Mm.
It's like the equivalent of going, oh well, if I download a new version of if I download a new version of Windows onto my Pentium from 2000, I can play Crisis on full graphics, right?
No.
Yeah. So as soon as they download this data, suddenly he goes from like the suit kind of covers half of his body to full Mandalorian mask looking mode.
Yeah.
So there's like a few things like that. Also, but it did manage to avoid what I'd say that my biggest worry I had when I realized the movie was more or less about his family rather than him was that he would fall into the background and be kind of inconsequential.
Uh,
Yeah, kind of like what happened with Shazam, where suddenly in the 11th hour, the entire family has the identical power set.
yeah. Yeah.
They did not do that. Like he's still like other characters are important, but he's still driving a lot of things.
Mm.
It's this just a very nice, serviceable superhero movie with a few issues you can poke holes in based on now whether it's political and you can't relax for a minute when the movie is otherwise okay,
Yeah.
and uh, and whether you notice more plot holes than I did.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a totally fine movie, worth your time at the very least when it comes to streaming.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed your thing of the week. Me,